Hello and welcome. I'm Pallavi Sharma, and you're watching Biz World Weekly, a show where we bring you the top stories of the week from across the world. Let's start with the market check. Indian equity indices ended lower on 19th June. Sensex was down 0.78% at 76,802.9 points, and Nifty fell 0.64% at 24,013.10 points. Defensive and utility-linked indices led the gains. Nifty Pharma, BSC Healthcare Advanced, BSC Telecom, BSC Capital Goods, and BSC Power gained, while technology stocks continued to bear the brunt of selling. Nifty Realty and Nifty Oil and Gas also lost some points. The broader market remained resilient despite the weakness in the frontline indices. Nifty Midcap 100 gained 0.22% and Nifty Small Cap 100 rose 0.42%. Top gainers on Nifty were Eternal, Bharti Airtel, Power Grid, NTPC, Nestle India, and Apollo Hospitals, while the top losers were Infosys, TCS, Tech Mahindra, HCL Technologies, and HDFC Bank. After months of war, attacks on oil tankers, the closure of Strait of Hormuz, and fears of a global energy crisis, the United States and Iran have signed what may be the most surprising diplomatic agreement in decades. Donald Trump is calling it a major victory. Iran says it is a proof that America failed to achieve its goals. Israel is furious. Oil markets are cheering. The agreement, officially called the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding, is a 14-point framework signed by the US President and the Iranian President. It aims to end the conflict that began earlier this year and create a roadmap for a permanent settlement within 60 days. The first major point is a complete ceasefire. Both sides have agreed to immediately stop military operations and refrain from attacking each other. The deal also seeks to end fighting on related fronts, including in Lebanon. Second, the Strait of Hormuz will reopen. This perhaps is the most important economic aspect of the agreement. Nearly 20% of the global oil trade passes through this narrow waterway. Iran has agreed to ensure safe passage for commercial vessels, while the United States will gradually lift its naval blockade. Third, Iran will once again be allowed to export oil. Sanctions relief is a central part of the deal, enabling Tehran to re-enter the global energy markets and generate much-needed revenue. Fourth, Iran has reaffirmed that it will not pursue nuclear weapons. The two sides have agreed to work on resolving the issue of Iran's stockpile of enriched uranium under international supervision. However, the agreement does not completely eliminate Iran's civilian nuclear program. Fifth, the United States and its partners have committed to supporting Iran's reconstructions. Reports indicate that reconstruction and investment packages worth at least $300 billion could be mobilized to rebuild infrastructure damaged during the conflict. The deal also includes the release of frozen Iranian assets, a commitment not to impose new sanctions during negotiations, and also creation of mechanism to monitor compliance before a final agreement is signed. But the controversy begins when we ask who got the better deal. Iran can claim several major victories. It secures sanctions relief, regains the access to oil markets, receives reconstruction support, recovers frozen assets, and crucially keeps parts of its nuclear infrastructure intact. It also avoided regime change, which is once discussed by some voices in Washington. Now, that is why Iranian leaders have described the agreement as a historic achievement for a powerful Iran. Trump, however, argues that America achieved its primary objective, ending the war, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, preventing a global oil shock, and obtaining renewed Iranian commitments against nuclear weapons development. The White House also views the agreement as a way to stabilize global energy markets without a prolonged military campaign. The biggest loser, according to many critics, maybe Israel. The agreement does not dismantle Iran's missile program, does not force complete nuclear disarmament, and does not fundamentally weaken the Iranian state. For years, Netanyahu's central objective has been to completely dismantle Iran's nuclear program and a significant reduction of Tehran's regional influence. Yet the deal achieves neither. Iran retains parts of its civilian nuclear infrastructure. The ruling establishment remains firmly in power. Sanctions are being eased, and billions of dollars could flow back into the Iranian economy through oil exports and reconstruction assistance. Critics in Israel argue that after months of conflict, Iran has gained economic relief without surrendering enough of its strategic capabilities. And then there is another twist. Under the agreement, Iran plans to introduce transit fees for ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz after a 60-day grace period. Tehran argues that it will be responsible for securing the waterway and should therefore be compensated. Critics, however, fear that this could give Iran long-term economic leverage over one of the world's most important trade routes. In a move that has sparked debate across strategic circles, the United States has quietly dropped the word Indo from its Indo-Pacific Command, restoring its old name, the Pacific Command. On the surface, Washington says that it's simply about honoring historical legacy. But for many in India, the change raises a big question. Is America downgrading India's role in its Asia strategy? Our next report has the details.
The United States has quietly removed one word from the name of one of its most important military commands. But that one word is Indo, and its disappearance is raising eyebrows in India. Is this just a bureaucratic name change, or does it signal a shift in how Washington views India and the Quad? During Donald Trump's first term, the United States renamed the Pacific Command as the Indo-Pacific Command. At the time, then U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis said the change reflected the growing strategic connection between the Indian and Pacific Oceans. More importantly, it was seen as a recognition of India's rising role in regional security. The term Indo-Pacific soon became central to U.S. strategy. It highlighted India's importance in balancing China's growing influence and became closely associated with the Quad, a grouping of India, the US, Japan, and Australia. The command itself became a key channel for military cooperation between India and the United States through exercises, intelligence sharing, and maritime coordination. Now, 8 years later, the Trump administration has reversed that decision and restored the original name, U.S. Pacific Command, or US PACOM. The Pentagon says the move is simply about restoring the command's historical identity and honoring its legacy dating back to 1947. Officials insist that nothing else is changing. Not the mission, not the area of responsibility, and not America's partnerships in the region. But critics aren't convinced. Many analysts argue that removing Indo weakens the symbolism that placed India at the center of America's regional strategy. However, there is another side to the story. Just weeks ago, Quad foreign ministers met and expanded maritime cooperation initiatives. The US, India, Japan, and Australia are continuing work on maritime surveillance, domain awareness, and critical minerals cooperation. So, is America stepping back from India and the Quad? For now, the answer appears to be no. But the decision to remove Indo carries undeniable symbolism.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi attended the G7 summit in France this week. The visit grabbed international attention because the trip wasn't just about diplomacy and a photo opportunity. It was about trade deals, strategic partnerships, Europe, the United States, and India's growing role in a rapidly changing world. So what all happened during this summit? Modi held talks with the French President Emmanuel Macron and also interacted with several global leaders on the sidelines. One of the biggest takeaways from the visit was the renewed push for an India-European Union free trade agreement. Negotiations between India and EU have been going on for multiple years, but both sides now appear determined to accelerate the process. A successful FTA could significantly boost trade, reduce tariffs, increase market access for Indian businesses, and attract greater European investment into India. For India, the EU is one of the largest trading partners. An agreement could help Indian exporters in sectors ranging from pharmaceuticals and engineering goods to textiles and technology services. At a time when supply chains are being diversified away from over dependence on any one country, India sees Europe as a major growth market. The second major outcome was the strengthening India France strategic partnership. France has emerged as one of India's closest partners in defense, space, nuclear energy, and the Indo Pacific region. The two countries reaffirmed their commitment to deeper cooperation, particularly in the sectors of defense manufacturing and advanced technology. France has consistently supported India's strategic interests and has often been among the strongest European voices backing closer ties with New Delhi. The relationship has become even more important as geopolitical competition intensifies in the Indo-Pacific. But perhaps the most interesting aspect of the visit was what it revealed about India's balancing act between Europe and the United States. Modi also held a meeting with Donald Trump. This came as relations between US and India are tense on the backdrop of the killing of 3 Indian seafarers who lost their lives in a US military strike. On this, Trump said that it was a rough profession and quote unquote, he loves all those people who lost their lives and their grieving families. He also repeatedly praised Prime Minister Modi's negotiating skills even while pushing for tougher trade terms. The meeting signaled that both countries remain committed to strengthening ties despite occasional differences over tariffs and market access. During Prime Minister Narendra Modi's speech at G7, he also mentioned the need for trust between global economies. And it makes sense. Take the US, for example. It wants a deal with India. Trump says that he loves Modi and he's a good friend of Modi, but he also goes on to decide removing the word Indo from US Pacific Command. He also had no immediate apology to the death of Indian seafarers. Earlier, the H-1B visa hike also gave Indians working in the United States a big shock. And the tariffs on India, it was the highest in the world, including the penalty over buying Russian oil. America is also growing closer to Pakistan. So over the past 16 months since the last meet between Modi and Trump, a lot had happened. As a result, the warm hugs that were very common in a Modi-Trump meet were a little cold. But India kept its balancing act on. For years, the American Tomahawk missile has been one of the most feared long-range precision weapons in the world. Now, India is developing its own equivalent. The DRDO has successfully tested a new indigenous long-range precision strike missile capable of hitting targets hundreds of kilometers away with remarkable accuracy. The development marks a major step forward in India's quest for self-reliance in advanced missile technology and long-range warfare capabilities. So what exactly is this new missile and why is it being compared to the famous Tomahawk? Our next report tells you more.
For decades, the American Tomahawk cruise missile has been one of the world's most famous precision strike weapons. It can travel long distances, fly under enemy radar, and hit targets with remarkable accuracy. Now, India may be developing its own equivalent. The DRDO has successfully tested the long-range land attack cruise missile, known as the LRLACM, from Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Island off the Odisha coast. The test achieved all its objectives and marks a major milestone for India's missile program. So, what makes this missile special? Unlike ballistic missiles, which travel high into the atmosphere before descending towards their targets, cruise missiles fly much closer to the ground. They can follow complex routes, avoid radar coverage, and change direction during flight. This makes them much harder to detect and intercept. The LRLACM is designed precisely for this role. Reports suggest it has a range of more than 1,000 kilometers, allowing it to strike strategic targets deep inside enemy territory. It is equipped with advanced navigation and guidance systems that help it maintain accuracy throughout its flight. What is particularly noteworthy is that the missile has been developed largely with indigenous technologies. From avionics to guidance systems, much of the technology comes from Indian defense research and industry. The comparison with the US Tomahawk missile comes from its mission profile. Like the Tomahawk, the LRLACM is designed to carry out long-range precision strikes against important land targets, such as command centers, radar stations, military infrastructure, and other strategic assets. The missile will also complement India's existing arsenal. The BrahMos missile remains one of the fastest cruise missiles in the world, but the LRLACM offers a different capability, a long-range, terrain-hugging weapon designed for deep strikes while remaining difficult to detect. While the missile will still undergo further testing before it enters service, the successful trial is a significant achievement. It demonstrates India's growing ability to design and build sophisticated weapons systems at home.
India has already achieved its ambitious E20 target ahead of schedule, but now the government is preparing for the next big leap, E25 petrol. For decades, the world's oil market had one clear kingmaker: the producers. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Russia, and the members of OPEC could cut or increase production and send oil prices soaring or crashing. But after the Iran war and the disruption of the Strait of Hormuz, a surprising new player has emerged with the power to influence oil prices: China. And unlike the OPEC, China's weapon isn't producing more oil, it's buying less of it. So how did China become one of the most powerful forces in global energy markets? When the Iran conflict erupted and oil shipments through the Strait of Hormuz were disrupted, many analysts predicted a massive price spike. Some forecasts even suggested oil could surge beyond $200 per barrel because nearly one-fifth of the world's oil trade passes through the Strait of Hormuz. But something unexpected happened. Oil prices certainly rose during the conflict, but they never reached the catastrophic levels many feared. In fact, once a peace deal was signed and the reopening of Strait of Hormuz came into light, prices began falling rapidly. Analysts started asking an important question: why didn't the prices explode despite one of the biggest disruptions to the global oil supplies in decades? A major part of the answer lies in China. China is the world's largest importer of crude oil. Traditionally, countries that consume large amounts of oil are considered price takers. They simply accept what price the market sets. But China is increasingly behaving differently. As oil prices rose during the crisis, Chinese refiners reduced imports, delayed purchases, and relied more heavily on existing inventories. As per official numbers, China's oil imports fell to lowest levels in 8 years. Seaborne oil imports fell over 45% of the 2025 average. And even as China's dependence on imported oil is high, China's slowing economy, growing EV adoption, and expanding renewable energy sector reduce the urgency of buying expensive crude oil. As per multiple reports, China also built up massive oil stockpiles. China reportedly owns 1.4 billion barrels of oil reserves, but China has not confirmed any of this. So Bloomberg's report says that this weakened global demand just when traders expected panic buying. In effect, China became what some analysts now call the world's first swing importer. The term is borrowed from the idea of a swing producer. Saudi Arabia, for example, can raise or lower production to influence oil prices. China is now demonstrating the opposite power. By increasing or reducing imports, it can influence demand and help stabilize prices. Think of it in this way: if a major producer cuts supply, prices should rise. But if the world's largest buyer simultaneously cuts demand, the price increases become much harder to sustain. That's exactly the idea of what happened during the Iran crisis. While supply was disrupted, China's reduced appetite for oil acted as a shock absorber for the global market. However, there is a catch. China cannot use this strategy indefinitely. Lower imports can only continue as long as the inventories remain sufficient and domestic demand stays weak. If economic growth accelerates, industrial activity picks up, or strategic reserves need replenishing, China could return to the market aggressively. That would push demand higher and potentially send oil prices upward again. The development also carries geopolitical implications. For oil exporters, China's purchasing decisions are becoming almost as important as OPEC production cuts. For importing countries like India, understanding Chinese demand trends may become crucial for predicting the future energy prices. India has already achieved its ambitious E20 target ahead of schedule, but now the government is preparing for the next big leap: E25 petrol and even higher ethanol blends. Supporters say that it will reduce India's massive dependence on imported crude oil, strengthen energy security, and support farmers. Critics, however, warn of lower fuel efficiency, higher vehicle wear and tear, and additional costs for consumers and even the automakers. So, why is India pushing beyond E20, and can it replicate the success of countries like Brazil that have been using higher ethanol fuels for decades? Our next report has the details.
India has just achieved something remarkable in its energy journey. A new KPMG report says that ethanol blending has helped India save nearly 1.67 lakh crore in foreign exchange, while reducing crude oil imports by around 283 lakh metric tons. That's a massive number for a country that imports more than 85% of its crude oil needs. But what exactly is ethanol blending? Ethanol is a biofuel made from agricultural products such as sugarcane, maize, and other biomass. Instead of using pure petrol, India mixes ethanol with petrol before it reaches fuel stations. This is known as ethanol blending. The government launched the Ethanol Blended Petrol program to reduce dependence on imported crude oil, improve energy security, and support farmers. Over the last decade, ethanol blending has risen dramatically, from just around 1.5% in 2014 to 20% today, a target India achieved years ahead of schedule, and the benefits are adding up. According to the KPMG report, apart from saving 1.67 lakh crore in foreign exchange and reducing crude imports by 283 lakh tons, ethanol blending has also prevented around 851 lakh tons of carbon dioxide emissions. That makes it not just an economic win, but also an environmental one. There's another big beneficiary: Indian farmers. As demand for ethanol has increased, sugar mills and grain processors have been purchasing more agricultural produce. This has created an additional revenue stream in rural India and strengthened the farm economy. Government data shows that ethanol programs have generated substantial earnings for farmers and ethanol producers over the years. The timing is also important, with geopolitical tensions frequently disrupting global oil markets and pushing up crude prices. Every barrel of oil India doesn't have to import helps protect the economy from external shocks. That's one reason why policymakers see ethanol blending as a key part of India's long-term energy security strategy. And India isn't stopping here. The country recently launched higher ethanol fuels such as E85 for compatible vehicles, signaling that the push toward alternative fuels is only accelerating.
Mumbai is a city that receives some of the heaviest rainfall in the world, yet every few years, somehow it finds itself staring at a water crisis. And this time, the warning signs are flashing bright red. According to the BMC, Mumbai's 7 lakes currently hold only enough water to last about 40 days. Reservoir levels have fallen to just over 9% of capacity, raising concerns about a possible shortage if the monsoon does not intensify soon. So, what exactly is happening? Mumbai depends on 7 reservoirs: Bhatsa, Upper Vaitarna, Middle Vaitarna, Modak Sagar, Tansa, Vihar, and Tulsi. For nearly all of its drinking water, this is the place. Together, these lakes supply around 4,000 million liters of water every day to the city's population of over 20 million people. But this year, the monsoon arrived later than expected, and rainfall in the catchment areas of these lakes has been significantly below normal. As a result, reservoir levels have dropped sharply. The total water stock has fallen to around 1.45 lakh million liters, enough only for roughly about 40 days of consumption if there is no substantial rainfall. The situation is serious enough that BMC has already imposed a 10% water cut across the city. Daily water supply has been reduced and restrictions have been introduced on construction activities, swimming pools, and other non-essential uses. Commercial establishments and industries are also facing additional cuts. What's particularly worrying is that some of these reservoirs already are nearing critical levels. Upper Vaitarna has reportedly reached dead stock levels, meaning most of the usable water has been exhausted. Other major lakes like Tansa and Bhatsa are also running low. But why is this happening all the time? Mumbai's water security is heavily dependent on a good monsoon. Even though the city receives massive rainfall, most of that water flows away into the sea because of storage infrastructure remaining limited. Rapid urbanization, rising demand, and climate variability are making the challenge even harder. On top of that, the India Meteorological Department, or IMD, indicated a weak southwest monsoon due to the effect of El Nino this year, with about only 90% of rainfall expected this monsoon. Experts warn that delayed monsoons and increasing unpredictable weather patterns could make such crises even more frequent in the future. For now, Mumbai's fate rests largely on coming weeks of monsoon rainfall. If rains pick up strongly, the reservoir can recover quickly. But if the delay continues, the city may face stricter rationing measures. In a city famous for floods during the monsoon, the irony is hard to miss. Too much rain on the streets, but not enough water in the reservoirs. What if a climate phenomena thousands of kilometers away in Pacific Ocean could decide the fate of India's fishing industry? As fears of a strong El Nino return, experts are warning that the impact may go far beyond weaker monsoons and higher food prices. Rising ocean temperatures could disrupt fish migration patterns, reduce catches, and threaten the livelihoods of millions of fishermen along India's coastline. So now, how exactly can El Nino create trouble for India's fishing business? The next story explains all you need to know.
When most people hear the term El Nino, they think about droughts, heat waves, and weak monsoons. But what if this weather phenomenon could also make your fish more expensive? India Meteorological Department declared that El Nino has developed in the Pacific Ocean and is expected to strengthen during the southwest monsoon season. The announcement came a day after the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration confirmed the emergence of El Nino and projected a 63% chance that it could reach very strong intensity between November 2026 and January 2027. El Nino occurs when sea surface temperatures in the central and eastern Pacific Ocean become unusually warm. While it begins far from India, it can alter weather patterns across the globe, including weakening the Indian monsoon and raising temperatures in the Indian Ocean. Scientists are already warning that the current El Nino could become one of the strongest in decades. Now here's where fishing comes into the picture. Fish populations are extremely sensitive to changes in ocean temperature. Many commercially important species depend on cooler, nutrient-rich waters. During El Nino years, ocean temperatures rise and nutrient circulation can weaken. As a result, fish often migrate to deeper waters or move to entirely different regions in search of better conditions. For Indian fishermen, that means fish become harder to find and catch. Boats may need to travel longer distances, spend more on fuel, and stay at sea for longer periods. Smaller fishermen, who already operate on thin margins, are often the hardest hit. India's fishing industry is a massive economic sector. It supports nearly 3 crore people directly and indirectly, and contributes significantly to seafood exports. Any prolonged disruption can therefore affect not just coastal communities, but also the broader economy. El Nino can weaken monsoon rainfall and alter ocean currents along India's coastline. These changes can reduce marine productivity, affecting breeding cycles and fish availability. Scientists have observed that warmer waters can also increase the risk of harmful algal blooms and marine ecosystem stress, further impacting fish stocks. And consumers may feel the impact too. If catches decline while demand remains strong, seafood prices could rise. The effects may be especially visible for popular varieties such as mackerel, sardines, and other coastal fish that many Indian households consume regularly.
That's all for this week. I will see you in the next. Keep watching ET Now for more such news and views.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.